What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Miko, joined by my guy Morgan here, and we are here to kick off our second season, Morgan, of doing film studies for the Detroit Lions. If this is your first time catching these types of videos, basically what Morgan and I do is we start to look at some of the all-22 footage of the Lions' opponent that they will be facing this upcoming week and try to break down usually players on the offense and defensive side that the Lions need to focus on. This season we're switching it up a bit. We're actually going to be trying to focus on schemes or particular play styles that the opposing team is going to try to utilize against the Lions and that the Lions need to have a counter for. And Morgan, I think that's going to be very important when we start talking about the Los Angeles Rams this week.
Yeah, man. And the Rams present a lot of unique challenges because the way they run their offense. So McVay, excuse me, used to run it was like a lot of zone heavy, concepts back in the day. And then it slowly evolved into more of this like gap scheme, power, style of running the football. And it starts with their offensive line, and they're a little banged up. So we're going to get into that. But like Kyron Williams is the real deal. I know you feel strongly about that too. Their skill guys are really, really special. So yeah, they present some unique challenges, and that's what we're going to focus on today. And then we'll kind of see what we end up focusing on for the post game analysis, right? Just hopefully it's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, with this Rams offense, we know about Matthew Stafford, we know about Puka Nacua, we know about Cooper Kupp. Those are the guys that I think kind of get talked about a lot. And then the guy that you mentioned, though, Kyron Williams, is another element of this offense that really emerged last year. Had a really big season, rushing for over 1,100 yards, putting up 12 rushing touchdowns. Like he was that rushing attack for them, and it's something that honestly, Morgan, the Rams haven't really had much of since those Todd Gurley days. So it's kind of another element that makes this offense even more dangerous. But like you mentioned, they also have a really good offensive line. One of the best offensive lines in football, a top 15 offensive rushing attack. And then you look at, how PFF graded the offensive line specifically, they were a top 10, graded offensive line when it came down to run blocking. So this is a group that when you start looking at the Rams, I think it can be easy to just focus on the passing attack. But this rushing attack, much like with the Lions, is the thing that kind of gets things rolling for them, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like similar to the way, yeah, I love that you put that caveat in there because Ben Johnson isn't a one-to-one comparison of Sean McVay with the way he constructs and like has his offense operate, but there are similarities. And yeah, with their offensive line, so there is going to be a little bit of shuffling, which we can get into here. So Jonah Jackson signed with the Rams. Originally, I was going to assume going to play guard. They're going to have him at center. So he's going to be at center for the time being. And I think you talked about it, Miko, before we hopped on, but he played center last in high school.
Yeah, at least exclusively playing center. Yeah, it hasn't really happened much since his high school days.
I was going to say, because he did the 4 years at Rutgers and then he did the 1 year as a grad transfer at Ohio State. So, yeah. And then you have Steve Avila at left guard, Kevin Dotson, one of the best interior offensive linemen in football last year, really good player at right guard. It sounds like Havenstein, the right tackle, is going to be a decision made a little bit later in the week. We're recording this Wednesday night. I will see there. And then they do have Noteboom, who I think has been in the league a couple of years now. He's starting at left tackle in place of Alaric Jackson, who's suspended for the 2 weeks for conduct, right?
Yeah, personal conduct. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good bit of shuffling, right? Like you throw in the fact that it's week one, and that might be kind of tough, right?
Well, and yeah, and I think again, before we kind of jump into the film here, I think the thing that makes that move of Jonah Jackson to center such an interesting decision by Sean McVay is that Jonah missed most of training camp, so it's not like he's been repping there this entire time. Like he's probably had a couple weeks of practice at this point, because I believe he was dealing with a shoulder injury, and so it's going to be really interesting how this rushing attack looks. But I've always been of the opinion, Morgan, and I could be wrong, right? There may be football pundits that know better than I I've always felt that run blocking is just a little bit easier because you're going forward, and like the mindset more than likely is just like, hey, a hat on a hat, right? Like get hands and get your body on the opposing defensive lineman. If you're in a situation where you're trying to move up to the next level, get to the linebackers. Obviously, I know there's more nuance. I know there's pulling, and I know there's all these other different things. There's traps and things of that nature. But the thing with the Rams and how they, choose to attack you with their rushing attack, obviously they expect their offensive line to do a good bulk of the work, but they ask their wide receivers to get involved, much like the Lions do, right?
Yeah, and they have to, right? And I love that you made the point because they do the Rams from a concept, standpoint. They throw everything at you. So zone, a lot of good amount of power, some gap, obviously power gap schemes. They'll throw duo, a lot of duo in there, trap, all that stuff. So very similar to the Lions, they're going to hit you with the kitchen sink in terms of like what they're going to make your defense react to. And having Stafford helps being like such a veteran. I do think that too. That was the other thing that went in my head. Just getting them into the right play, the right protection, helping Jonah out. Even though I know Jonah's a vet too, but yeah, to your point, the receivers, man, Nakua shows up time and time again when you watch this film. And watching this film, it brought me back. Like this was a physical game. Like being there in person, I remember like there was so many collisions just on like every other, just every down too. Not every down, but like not something that people are paying attention to. But if you played football, you've been around it a lot, you're like, ooh, like that was a
Mm-hmm.
collision. There was a lot of that. So I expect another physical game between two teams who want to impose their will on each other. So yeah, Nakua, they motion him into the run blocking here. And they do this a lot. They insert the receivers into a gap like the C gap, and ask them to climb and hit a linebacker or a safety or sometimes even a defensive end. They'll do some pin and pull stuff where they ask Nakua, kind of like the Lions do a lot of the time, where
Mm-hmm.
they'll have Nakua come back in off a motion, hit the outside shoulder of the defensive end, try to earhole him a bit, and then that allows that tackle or that guard or whoever's pulling to get out into space. So you see a lot of this, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think like this is a thing that can make, it forces your defense like for everyone to basically be at attention, right? Because again, clearly the Lions defended this really well on this play, right? Alex Anzalone does a really good job of filling the gap that Puka Nakua kind of climbs up into and takes on Ifatu Melifonwu with that block, but that leaves Alex Anzalone unblocked, able to kind of fill the gap, make the tackle on Kyron Williams, but again, if everyone isn't on the same page, if everyone isn't in tune to what is happening, this can absolutely go the other direction. And it's not just because the offensive line did their job; it's because like those other skill players are getting involved and clearing guys out so that they have these rushing lanes available to them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that earlier too. Like, there's definitely nuance to run blocking depending on what you're running. But if you ask offensive linemen, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I want to run block because I want to get out and like hit people. I don't want to just get into my set and have to catch these like 6'6", 280-pound athletes. That's probably not as much fun as like getting after somebody and firing off the ball. But yeah, because the Rams play the way they do, it takes everyone's got to be sound in their run fits. Don't try to overextend yourself and like make a play that's not there. Like do your job, and you'll be okay, I think. And the Lions were pretty sound in the wild card round last year when they beat the Rams. Kyron Williams did. He had 13 carries for 61 yards. So he's still efficient, but for the most part, they block really well. Very similar to the Lions. They're all bought in. They're blocking on the perimeter. No one's taking plays off, and it shows.
Yeah, 100%. And again, if it's not the skill players getting involved, they still again this offensive line is very well coached and they know how to utilize double teams and to be able to again try to get bodies on your defensive lineman to hopefully clear out space. And I really want to kind of hit on this. Like a lot of these plays that we're going to show you, like the Lions defend these things very, very well. And I think it's more of a testament to the coaching. I don't think it's necessarily a knock on the scheme. It just goes to show like this is how prepared you have to be. This is how aggressive you have to be on the defensive line to be able to get off of blocks and to be able to make these types of tackles for 1 or 2 yard gains.
Yeah, and you're like the last two that we've looked at were most likely just like off tackle concepts, and this is where it's get a hat on a hat. There's certain rules built in to make sure you're getting where you need to be as a blocker. and you won't ever know that unless you're in the room. But they do, like, you're going to need a really good game, in my opinion, from the likes of Ali McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Pascal. Hopefully, DJ Reader's up. We talked about it before we hopped on. If DJ Reader's up, man, the Rams are going to be, because Jonah Jackson's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be different dealing with a monster like DJ Reader while you have to snap the ball too. Like, you're not just firing off the ball with both hands. Like that makes a difference. So I really hope he's up. If that makes if he's up, that makes a big difference, right, Miko?
Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to freeze it right here because I think this is a really good, again, testament to what I was saying earlier about like things can be looking like, I don't think it's necessarily the scheme. Like this is blocked really well, right?
Yeah.
There you have the Rams have a body on everybody, on this defensive front. But Josh Pascal does an amazing job of tossing Tyler Higbee to the side. And that's what basically opens up the opportunity to make a play. So again, it's schemed really well on the defensive side, but you still need players to make plays.
Yeah, Mika, and I love that you point that out, because that's, he defeats the block. Like, yeah, they gain some yards and they move the ball, but that, like you said, that was blocked really well. And we saw, like, both sides of the ball. The Lions were doing this to the Rams on their
Mm-hmm.
side of the ball too. Like, you see it time and time again. You had the first touchdown. I want to say Panay Sewell comes screaming across the formation and kicks out Young, and I was like, ooh, that had to hurt. Young ate it. He looked
Yeah.
good, but yeah, it's gonna be a chess match, like like Wizard's chess from Harry Potter. If you're a Harry Potter fan, they're gonna be running some stuff out there. That's what it reminds me of. There's just such big collisions every play.
Yeah. So Morgan, when a team has like a concept like this, right? When they have such a diversified rushing attack and plan, what is the best way of kind of counteracting that? And what did you kind of see last year that the Lions did that kind of helped, you know, get them to stymie the Rams in that way?
Yeah, they start slanting. You can start running slants with your defensive ends and like crashing down the line of scrimmage. You can run stunts in games and try to get your linebackers involved, like slicing into those gaps, making plays. So here, this is a good example of that, man, because you have Hutch lined up at the right defensive end spot, and he's just going to scream down the line of scrimmage and just kind of cave things in. And people don't look at him too. He's flexing at the end because he knows he helped Alex Anzalone make this play. So watch Hutchinson there, and then he'll come down the line of scrimmage and basically just try to run through the guard, and ends up just causing a bunch of chaos, making it easy for Anzalone. Still has to make the play, but that's exactly what we're talking about when you can get creative with how you slow some of this stuff down, what the Rams do.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely love this play because again, it shows again how one player doesn't necessarily have to make the play, but his approach to how he attacked the play is what opens up the opportunity for Alex Anzalone to basically fill this gap. And again, Alex is probably more so just doing his responsibility of making sure that, you know, Kyron Williams doesn't have a backside escape, but again, is able to be right there in place to make a really good tackle.
Yeah, and this is where personnel wise, I'll be interested to see, because pause it. Well, next time it goes back to that view, pause it, and I want to run through a little bit of an idea I had here, what I think the personnel will look like. So, on a person, like from a personnel standpoint, I think it'll still be Hutchinson from going right to left, and then if I had to guess, if DJ Reader's up, he'll be right there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in the A gap. And then over there, I think you'll have where Levi is. I would put Aleem right there, at the three technique. And then really you can get creative with that big end out there. And if they trust Levi to play that end opposite of Hutchinson, or like Marcus Davenport too, that's a big, strong man too. I didn't even, we're not even talking about him. This is where, like, in my opinion, the Lions have a little bit more teeth at their disposal this year with their defensive front, right, Miko? You have more options. Makai
Yeah.
Wingo, you could throw Makai Wingo in there, and yeah,
Yeah, they have
options.
definitely a lot more opportunities and a lot more bodies that they can throw at the Rams. Again, a Rams offensive line that we talked about earlier that is already going to be, a little dinged up, even if the right tackle does play. Like you're talking about a player who isn't 100% going up against a defensive line in Detroit that is currently like really healthy, right? I mean, obviously DJ Reader is still working his way back. Um, and so even if he doesn't play a ton of snaps, getting DJ Reader in there, just a handful of snaps could be very, very beneficial. But if not, Morgan, if for some reason the Lions decide to play it more cautiously with DJ Reader because they think like, hey, we need him for the long haul, it's really nice to have an Aleem McNeil, right?
Yes, it is. It's a nice insurance policy because Aleem, ideally he does take more snaps at the three tech because then you have him just being, a true like defensive tackle and like attacking half a man and hope like causing chaos like this, just running across a guy's face. It looks like Kevin Dotson 69 is trying to reach uh, McNeil here. And I don't know. We talked about this earlier. I don't know if this is a design like Aleem was supposed to be slanting like this, or he just peeked into the backfield and was like, I'm about to make a play real quick. But either way, I'll take it.
I was gonna say it's perfect timing at the very least, and I'm a little bit of the mindset that maybe it was slightly designed because I feel like everybody on that defensive line takes at least one step. So it's not the same as the previous play where Hutch literally came screaming down the line. But I think it's a little bit of I think Dan Campbell has talked about this at times where like they do want their defensive line to be more attacking, but still to have those moments where they're reading and reacting. So it's like, again, recognizing in a very short amount of time, like, hey, I'm going to take this step to my right, and if I have an opportunity to beat him across his face, like I'm going to take it. And I think that's what you kind of see across his defensive line. Everyone slightly taking a step to the right, and then Aleem just has the perfect angle to knife through and make this play in the backfield.
Yep. Yeah. And I hope I think you're right too, because I think I want to say it's a design slant. We'll never know. These are the nuances. Whereas we as analysts or people like that just do this and try to break down what's going on on film. You're not going to know unless you're in the huddle. But I want to say this is a designed. This is what he's supposed to do, and then he peeked into the backfield and was like, "Oh yeah, this is perfect." And then kudos to the running backs. He still slipped away from him, and Hutchinson got a little cleanup action going there. But yeah, good. It is like you said, Miko. It is a nice luxury because had for this game you have Tyson Alu, number 92, right there, and he was playing pretty big time snaps for the Lions
Mm-hmm.
because just again they were kind of just down. They were banged up on the inside, and people weren't healthy, and you kind of just had to make do. So I do think I think this front has more teeth, and someone picked. I want to say it was like for breakout player. I think someone picked Levi. Man, if Levi had a coming out
Oh,
party,
I did.
it
I
was
picked
you.
Levi. I absolutely picked
Yes,
Levi.
good job, bro. Yeah, that'd be amazing because like if he could start it against the Rams and like Aleem, be an agent of chaos back there and just defeat one on ones and cause problems in the backfield, it's going to go a long way to because you want to earn your right to. You mentioned it earlier, like potentially picking on Note Boom, the guy starting at left tackle in place of
Yeah.
Alaric Jackson. You earn those reps, right? Like if you're good, if you can be good on first and second down, and you get to those third and longs where it's an obvious down and distance, and you can just pin your ears back and go. That's where things could potentially be problematic for the Rams, who, like we talked about, the offensive line's kind of patchwork right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like that's kind of the point that we're trying to drive home with this film study is that if the Lions can continue to do what they did last year in stopping the run and making this team one-dimensional, again, not saying that it makes the game absolutely flawless because this game last year was still tight because you still do have that quarterback and those wide receivers. It's a game changer, right? But at least you can eliminate another threat. And this rushing attack is very much that. Kyron Williams 100% earned that Pro Bowl that he had last year. Like I said, over 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, had multiple games where he went over 125 rushing yards. So as much as, people may want to think like, oh, just get after Matthew Stafford and it'll be okay. No, you kind of want to take Kyron Williams out of the game so that it does just become Matthew Stafford that you have to worry about. Um, I know some people may also be watching this like, okay, but what about the Rams defense? By no means are we trying to be disrespectful by not talking about the Rams defense, but I believe that they've gone through such a big overhaul, Morgan, that it would be kind of like not doing it justice to talk about it now, right? Losing an Aaron Donald is nothing to just, overlook. Losing an Ernest Jones, losing Jordan Fuller, losing like very big contributors to that defense is going to have an impact on this new Rams defense. However, they've also added some really good pieces, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got some young talent. You drafted Jared Verse, the Fisk, Braden Fisk, both Florida State kids. So I do think you got some juice there. But yeah, I think that'll probably be something we focus on in the post game analysis. Still has the makings. They are starting two really young linebackers though, Roseboom and Hummel. So that'll be interesting to watch, especially for against a team like the Lions, who likes to do a little bit of work in the middle of the field. So I'm sure
I was
Ben
gonna say when
Johnson,
you're gonna have to line up against Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and whether
Jameer,
it's Jameer Gibbs or David Montgomery, like
Monty,
you're gonna need a lot of work in the middle of that field. But that
yeah, it'll be
defensive line is
Julius.
impressive, and I'm really interested. Obviously, not this week, but going forward, I am kind of interested in seeing how this defensive line grows. When you, like you said, when you have a Verse, when you have a Fisk, and you have Kobe Turner returning, who led this team in sacks last year. So like, there is a
Yeah,
lot to like about this Rams defense. It's just I don't think it's as big of a concern this year as it was last year when you had probably one of the greatest defensive players to ever play football on your
definitely.
team.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Donald's one of I put him up there with Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, like the the pinnacle. But yeah, I still think it's going to be a talented unit. Just hopefully they don't, get going this week. And then yeah, I love the point you made on the offensive side of the ball because we saw it last year. Like Stafford was the only reason why the Rams really were in that game the entire time because man, he made some crazy throws, like getting blasted, sidearm, tiny
Concussed,
window, yeah,
clearly concussed at one
yeah,
point.
hid that injury like a gangster, like got up and acted like whatever his shoulder was. That's the oldest trick in the book, man. The Patriots guys like Edelman and Amendola and them talk about that all the time. They'd pick each other up and be like, grab your arm, grab your arm. We know
Yep.
your game stuff. Like, but bravo to you. But yeah, I'm glad we just wanted to focus on something that not everyone's talking about. Everyone's going to be talking about Nakua and Cup and everybody else, but really their running game and Kyron Williams and getting downhill and resetting the line of scrimmage. That's what they really want to do because then it makes what Stafford and the receivers do even more deadly.
100%. So that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. If there are any other things that you are like really focused on in this Lions Rams matchup for week 1, let us know in the comment section below. Maybe there's a player that we didn't get to talk about. Maybe there's a sneaky dark horse that like the Lions really need to look out for. Definitely leave that in the comment section below. If you're looking for any more content on the Detroit Lions, you can always check out prideofdetroit.com. There are new articles being uploaded multiple times throughout the day. So definitely go check out the website and check up and get up to date on some of the newest things that are being written over there. And if you want to get locked into what we are uploading as far as video content over here on YouTube, all you have to do, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That's going to let you know anytime we upload new videos, especially videos like this, where we are actually diving into actual all 22 footage and breaking down some of the things that are happening on the field. But with that said, I'm Miko. He's Morgan. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.